Our goal in the next video clip is to better understand the animal requirements section in SheepBytes. From the rations list, let's select First Ration and open it up by clicking on this button, and then getting into the Animal Requirements section by clicking on the Animal button. Okay, let's explore what's here. First of all, under Mature Ewes, you can see that we have a number of other classes that we can select from. Replacement ram lambs, ewe lambs, mature rams, mature ewes, growing lambs, finishing lambs, and early wean lambs. So requirements are in groups under that particular button. Under mature ewes themselves, we've got a series of options. Early gestation, first 15 weeks is the one we selected for the first ration, but we could also do rations for early lactation, flushing and breeding, late gestation, last 6 weeks of lactation, and maintenance. Over here you'll see a box called Animal Modifications. If you've selected from the list a requirement, you have the option now of going into this part and modifying or fine-tuning those selections for your own needs. So for example, in some areas of the world where they're very selenium deficient, you might want to change the selenium from 100% of the requirements that we have there to 200. And you do that merely by entering 200 in that box and clicking. The same thing with sodium, for example. We've got a sodium requirement that is at 100%. If you think you want more sodium in the ration, you could change that to 150, which would give you 50% more than the standard requirement in SheepBytes. Now you can either close that and use those in the ration, or you can reset to default values by clicking on this button right here. That's what we're going to do in this case. Reset to default values, and then close the box. Body weight is important because it allows you to select the right requirements. If you happen to make a mistake, or if you happen to believe you've got some very large sheep, if you put the number 300 in there, you will see that a red line immediately comes around that box, and you get this little exclamation mark popping up here. If you put your cursor over that exclamation box, you can see that the sentence is, or the statement is, the maximum value for this field is 225 pounds. So there's no requirement for a 300-pound ewe in our data set. Let's change that back to 180, and the box is removed. Condition score is straightforward. Again, if you have a very thin sheep, you would have a 1, and a very fat sheep would be a 5. We will leave it on 3. As we get into the environment section, let's go down here and test what happens if we've got extremely cold temperatures. We've got -10 in there, but we know that in a good part of Canada we can get down to -35 or even colder. If you put that in 35 there, you see a statement pops up at the bottom in red. This animal may be experiencing cold stress. Requirements have been adjusted. That's merely a warning to you that your energy requirements in your ration have been adjusted for that cold stress. You could still go ahead and utilize a ration or create a ration for that temperature, but you do have to be aware that the requirements have been adjusted. So let's say we're going to leave this U requirement in here at -35. If we want to save that requirement for future use without having to go through and enter it all again, we can touch the Save button here in the bottom. Animal settings name, we will call this cold stress. And we will add the term ewes there as well, so we know that it's for ewes, and then we can save that ration requirement. So now if we wanted to load that back again, in the drop-down box here, you would see cold stress ewes, the one we just saved, and we could bring that back up and use that. So if you do wish to save your requirements for a various number of animals, that allows you to do that. Let's go back to the ration page now. as we've covered all the things we need to know about the requirements.